All right, we should be recording. Tonight, we bring you a very special guest for an interview. She has been with us from the very beginning of starting all of our webinars and our roundtables, and every effort that we have put into, she has put in just as much. And I thought it was about time that we started to learn a little bit more about her and about her as a person. So tonight, we bring you Dr. Ellen Derrick. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you for inviting me. It's such a privilege to be part of this community. It's
Oh,
hard to
thank
put it
you.
into words.
Thank you. So I guess we'll start with where are you from?
I'm from Houston, Texas.
Nice, nice. And so you did get to stay around that area for your early education and for a lot of your life?
I did. So I grew up in Houston and I went to, let's see, I had two dreams as a young girl. One was to live in Scotland, and the other was to be a surgeon like my grandfathers. Oh
Nice.
my goodness. And
I
so
think those are
I
both
went
great
to,
dreams.
they were such great dreams. And now we have
I love
Outlander.
Scotland, and being a surgeon, there's no shame in that.
I know. I mean, that's how, yes, yes. So that's the little Scottish piece is important because I went to college in Dallas at SMU and I majored in classical studies. And I just had this wild idea that if I asked the dean at SMU if he would let me graduate with a degree in classical studies, what would it look like? He said, sure, if you write the degree, I will consider graduating you. So I said, great, here's the degree. And part of that was me going overseas to Scotland to the University of St. Andrews, and I got a master's in Greek and Latin as
Wow.
part of my. I was so lucky. It was part of my 4-year adventure. So 2 years in Dallas, 2 years in Scotland.
Oh, wow. Yeah, my great grandmother was actually born in Edinburgh.
Really?
Hmm.
That's amazing. Which so who came over? Your
So she was born there, and then I think within that year they pre-staged in England to sail over, and they went through Ellis Island.
Wow, that's amazing. Oh, that's so neat.
So I was like, oh yeah, Scotland is a great dream. I would love that. And I love the Latin because that actually plays in a lot to being a surgeon and all of the medical terms.
Yes, it did make that piece more straightforward because the nice thing about Latin, it's very descriptive. So the word is the story.
Mhm.
And I'll just use an early word that's so fun, and that's your carotid artery. It's an artery in your neck. Yes, right here. And it actually comes from the Greek word kero, and it means to stupefy, to make stupid, which is an alarming word. But
But when
exactly, if you injure the carotid, you're going to have a stroke and you either cannot speak or you cannot move. And so that's a great example. English isn't like that, but it's a great example of some of the of Greek and Latin, how it how if you know the word, you know the story. And so
yeah,
it's really fun.
I loved that part because it was a little part of my education. I did veterinary, and our instructor made sure that we did prefixes and suffixes and really learned because once you have that foundation, it can help you decode almost any medical term.
Totally. Totally. Yes, it does. It really is very helpful.
So you, gosh, how lucky. But so after you finished in Scotland, when did you really start your education towards becoming a general surgeon and a vascular surgeon?
So then I came back home and I went to the University of Texas in San Antonio for medical school. And then that was 4 years after college. And then I went to the University of Washington, and I did a
Oh,
full general surgery residency, and I obtained a board certification in general surgery. And then I did a 2-year fellowship in vascular surgery. And what was interesting about that piece is at that time, I was the very last class of vascular surgeons that had to become board certified in general surgery. And I was
wow.
also one of the very last classes of vascular surgeons who did a year in interventional radiology, or IR. So they don't
Really?
train vascular surgeons the way that they trained me. It's I'm a, kind of a dinosaur at 50, and how I was trained. And then after I finished my vascular surgery, I remained at the University of Washington, and I got a master's in public health.
Wow.
It's a lot of school.
How did you adapt? I know that because I've lived in Washington State, and I know that it is vastly different. I'm a Californian, so when I moved up to Washington, you know that it doesn't necessarily rain all the time. It's just the 9 months of gray really kind of gets to you after growing up in the sun.
Yes. Yes, it's hard. And it's still hard after all these years. And I don't like being cold, and I don't really love the short days. And I did something really brave this year and very, I think, modern. I decided I wanted to plant a bunch of tulips, and I've never gardened before. So I went on YouTube and Chat GPT, and I asked, if I live in Washington, which is zone 9A, when is the best time to plant tulips? And ChatGPT said the weekend after Thanksgiving.
That's very
So
specific.
it was very specific. And I thought, oh my gosh, the days are short and it's gross. And I've never done this before and it probably won't work. So I watched a YouTube channel of a woman who has a tulip farm. And she described something called the lasagna trench technique. And I
Mm.
watched the YouTube a couple of times and I showed it to my husband, who thought, wow, that's, good luck to you, honey. But he helped me dig the trenches, and one of my children and I, we planted all these tulips and daffodils. And I just thought, oh my God, this is definitely hope. I mean, it's faith, really. I mean, I'm putting these things, I'm having faith in YouTube and ChatGPT. I'm putting these things in the ground. I've never done it before. What will happen? And so here we are, however many months later, and all the daffodils started to bloom in the neighborhood. And so I went back to ChatGPT and I said, hey, mine are not really doing anything. Did I do the technique wrong? And I, typed in what I did, and ChatGPT said, you know what, just give it 2 more weeks. It's going to come out. And I said, fine, 2 more weeks. Well, guess what? They're all starting to come out. And I realized this is such a great antidote for the darkness and the gray and the struggle. Is sometimes you have to plant a seed and you've never done it before. So you have to have faith that something will happen. And then you have hope that it happens. And now I have some daffodils coming up. And after all these years of living in the Northwest with the gray and the dark, I might have finally found a way to make sunshine, make my own sunshine.
Mm.
So thanks.
A
That's a
little
long.
bit of joy. Yeah, when I was up there, my mother always grew beefsteak tomatoes, like those
Oh,
big. And I remember coming in and she would have them out in the garden. She thought one of her plants wasn't growing because I kept picking it every day on my way inside from work. And I would have that for lunch. It's just a tomato and some salt and pepper. And so she's like, this one just keeps not producing. And I'm like, it's me. I keep eating them all because they were perfect, right in the sun. And so when I moved to Washington, I was determined I was going to be able to do this. And all of the gardening club ladies, because we didn't have Chat GPT or anything back then,
yes.
all the gardening ladies that I talked to were like, it's impossible. It's not going to happen. We don't get enough sun and it doesn't get hot enough. So one year I finally did it. They needed like as much sun. I moved them out into the middle of the driveway. It was ridiculous. All right. But they got so much sun and I was able to use those tomatoes. They were so good. I traded my neighbors for deer meat with those tomatoes.
Wow.
Right.
That is amazing, because
So it
that is
does
like the
gardening. It
unicorn.
does. Every time that you can find just a little bit of joy. And don't get me wrong, I love Washington State. We will move back. My husband and father are Washingtonians. But you really do. You have to find a way that works for you to bring that joy into the gray times, because the second that spring hits, you're going to sit out in the sun until you accidentally burn on that first day.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
Every time, every time. So, in all of this education, somehow you managed to get married and have children. Tell me that story. That's a good story.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. That is sometimes, wow. So let's see. So golly gee whiz. So it's unusual to have as many children as I do. And I feel really lucky to have the children that I do. We're in a blended marriage, my husband and I have I always wanted 4 children, but being the hours that happen as a female surgeon, it was
Yeah.
very difficult for me to carry children, actually. So I have 2 children, and my husband brought 2 children, and so together we have 4. And
Oh,
sometimes it's like, when they were little, oh my goodness, I wondered how we were going to just get to dinner, and that it was so hectic. And I had a wonderful nanny and a wonderful mother-in-law, and they, oh, just so lucky. And my mother too, she lives in Texas, but she would come up and help. And
oh.
it took a village, real, I mean, just a village.
Yeah, because when I heard that you had children, I mean, it's impossible. It really is. We want women to do all of these things and be as educated as you are and as smart as you are, but we don't give everybody the village and the tools to do it. So I'm so happy for you that you
Oh,
still got to experience what you wanted,
thank you.
because some people it's just out of reach. And I was thrilled for you that you still got that.
Thank you. I feel very lucky. It was a hard road, but a lucky road. So
Yeah,
thank you.
I can't imagine at all. Because for my veterinary, I made the decision to kind of go with my husband's career instead, because mine was just going to keep costing us money in education.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have been able to afford to have kids. And I have 3, and I've been able to stay home with them. And I've been really, really privileged to have that experience. But in order to do that, I had to sacrifice. And it was a sacrifice that I gladly made. Don't feel bad for me. Um, but I'm glad that you, because I really admire the education that you have gone through. It's really impressive because I understand it on a personal level of how much you've done. And then your continuing education is really impressive as well, because you've recently gotten board certified in obesity medicine as well, which is just, my goodness. So you're going to be the one that finally gets me. Ray keeps trying to get me to cry in my interviews. And I'm like, oh, you didn't get me. You didn't get me. Oh, but the obesity medicine really just, I don't, how were you called really to start down this avenue?
You know, my patients called me, honestly. That's the honest answer. I started seeing people with fat disorders in my office, my vascular surgery office, because many patients with these disorders also have venous insufficiency and lymphedema. And that's
Definitely.
right in the wheelhouse of vascular surgery. So I saw a lot of these women. And over time, the conversation shifted to, can you diagnose me? And I said, sure, well, let me read how to do that. I have to make sure I know how to do it. So I said, sure. So I started diagnosing these patients with fat disorders. And then that was wonderful. But there was a big gap in my mind as a health outcomes researcher and a I guess double board certified surgeon. There was an enormous gap between diagnosis and high volume liposuction. And it felt like this desert. So I have a fat cell disorder. Now what? And, it's very precious to care for a patient. It's a very, now I'll cry, it's a very precious relationship when a patient can share their vulnerability with you in the exam room, and it's protected. So it's a very special conversation. But I just, as a woman, could not bear that there was no care for these women. And I could not bear that they were invisible to MDs. I could not bear it. And it really struck me because I myself felt very invisible as a young female vascular surgeon, always the only woman surgeon in the room, always. And that was so hard. And I had some advocates, but not many. And I really had to make my own way, really forge a way.
In the good old boys club. Yeah.
I just couldn't bear it. So I thought, well, what do we do? What do I do? How do I help these women? And I decided to go back to school because women and men with fat disorders deserve a board certified physician, MD, to see them, to shine a spotlight on them, and to collaborate with them to create what's next after diagnosis. How do we go from diagnosis to treatment to improved life and quality of life outcomes? And so there's, it's a long story, but I don't know. And I couldn't, it was like I couldn't hold it inside. And so off I went back to school and I passed my board I took it in October and I found out in December and I was so excited. We celebrated in the office. And so now I feel like, my work is really just beginning. It's just beginning. There is so much that I have to learn, that the healthcare system has to learn, that payers have to learn. I mean, there's just so much. And sometimes it's really overwhelming.
Yeah.
Well, it's often extremely overwhelming. But then I connect with you guys and this community. And I know why. All of us are doing this. Y'all are the why.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so off we go into the wild blue yonder to figure out and to design and establish, what's next.
But I think really having you, in addition to all of the wonderful doctors that we have, I think that your education really speaks to not only the level of care that you want to provide, but the level of respect that you should command in the medical field, for somebody to actually listen to you. Because oftentimes when we start talking, it sounds kind of like we're crazy. And so we get shut down a lot of the time. And so all of us have really been waiting for more doctors, more educated providers to just notice, just to notice. And so I'm really hoping that this opens up a lot of eyes, to see that a doctor like yourself, who is triple board certified, who has made her own way in the surgical world, who has dedicated her life to patients and to further education, and to care will really strike more doctors in thinking that maybe they should open their minds about this. Maybe just look into it a little bit. But it's okay to not know everything. That's okay. It's okay. So it gives us a lot of hope, and then you showing up every time, every time. And I'll tell you all that if you don't see her on the round table, it is because she has dashed in and done her best to make it. And she is in the audience. She is there. She has shown up every time. You may not see it. We see it. But every time that she has been asked to show up for us, she has. And we just really wanted to make everybody understand how much you've given to this community already.
Well, thank you. I feel like it's what my next 15 years are all about. It's to leave the disease in its entirety better than when I found it. And we can do it when we all work together. We can navigate and we can advocate and educate, and we can make this a known diagnosable disease with therapy.
Right. And not just for Durkheim's. We're not just talking about Durkheim's. We're taking everybody with us. We all gonna go.
Yes.
Lipedema, lymphedema, venous insufficiency. We want everybody to be heard. And when I was out in Washington, it was kind of a care desert. As far as when I was discovering that I had Durkheim's, there really wasn't anybody to see. So I was very excited to see somebody in the Pacific Northwest who was not just for surgery, but an actually diagnosing doctor, somebody who can help you with further care other than surgeries.
Thank you. Yes, yes. We have to find the way. What is next? Diagnosis, treatment. There's treatments. And I think being a surgeon and having the training and the experience to take the body in some pretty unique places in the operating room, it requires accountability, and it requires a level of expertise and a courage, not a cowboy, but a courage that is different than other fields in medicine. And I hope to use those qualities to learn and establish what are our next steps for this patient population, and how do we navigate care between diagnosis, and surgery and after surgery, because the goal of any treatment should be to improve the quality of life of the folks that have the disease. And that is a humongous black box. And there are a lot of people working on different parts, some doing genetic analysis, some taking tissue samples. But there's an enormous gap of clinical outcome data. And that piece is going to be critical going forward to get insurance to recognize and fund treatment for this disease. Insurance wants to have an established paradigm that have measurable benchmarks, so that when they give the green light to the diagnosis and the treatments of the diagnosis, they understand the value that their members will receive from the treatment. And that's the desert piece. And it is a public health piece, and it is such a critical piece to get us to where, once this is recognized, it needs to be funded too.
That's true. Yeah. When I was trying to get my surgeries covered, I ran up against a wall, which I expected with my insurance. But in general, they would cite the rarity of my disease as to why they would not approve surgeries. Like, well, there just aren't enough studies. Your disease is too rare, even though, you handed them like 5 different papers where they're like, yeah, that's, but my insurance is notoriously difficult anyway. I am thankful to have health insurance at all, but um, definitely there is a huge gap there. Even not just for surgeries, for the lymphatic pumps that we were talking about in the roundtable, for even venous insufficiency surgeries or compression wear for DIRCMs.
Mm-hmm.
And even for lipedema, a lot of these things are kind of falling into that gap. So definitely part of the puzzle for sure.
Yes, it is part of the puzzle. So everyone just will all stay tuned and keep going. We're going to get there. We will get there for sure.
We are definitely going to get there. And we are so grateful for your help. I mean, seriously, it has been a breath of fresh air that does keep us going for sure. I quoted you in a conversation today that we were having with some of the administrators and the mods of the Facebook group. And we were talking about some sort of GLP and lymphatic dysfunction and is it muscle soreness because of lactic acid?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, like Dr. Derrick says, all roads lead to Rome. And like, it was funny. So you were quoted even off time, which is
Oh,
it's great.
thank you guys. Oh my gosh. I just, whatever I can do, whatever questions folks have, problems to solve, it's going to take a community. It's going to take all of us to work together and build community around us with other physicians, with public health folks, with regulators, with politicians. There is a lot of ground that we need to cover. And,
That's
we
true.
just need to keep supporting each other and keep working together, keep
That's
growing.
why it's been so important because it's all been up until recently heaped on Dr. Herbst, and she is wonderful. And we live for the papers coming out and researching everything that we can. But it can't just be heaped on one person. Not only is that not fair, it's unrealistic. So branching out, getting more doctors involved, and all of the things that you mentioned really, I think, will bring us all forward, not just for DIRCMs, again, but for all of these conditions, all of the fat disorders, all of the venous disorders, all of these things all need help. They're all misunderstood. They're all undertreated. So I think it's not just DIRCMs. I think it gets a whole big group of people forward.
Yeah, the folks that are invisible, it's not okay to be invisible, and it is not okay to be told you don't have something. It's just heartbreaking, and so it's just not okay, and I'm saying it's not okay, and we need to change the system so that we can deliver state of the art, best practice, outcome based care. And it's today, but we're starting. And I can't wait to see where we'll be a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years, 10 years from now. And I lie awake at night thinking about all the ways that we need to push forward to make this disease and lipedema and lymphedema and venous disease comprehensive care.
Yeah.
That everyone can access, because you can go to your physician and your
Right.
physician can say, oh, I know about that, let me diagnose it for you. and then let me start your treatment plan. And it can be part of, your whole care. It should be.
I know so many of us have had a lot of negative experiences in the medical field. And another goal is always to make sure that there are more positive outcomes, that there are more doctors that can actually practice the standard of care that they're supposed to be. And maybe it's in their hearts to do that, but they don't feel qualified or they don't really understand. And so maybe that becomes part of the negative outcome. But another, that's also through advocacy, what we're trying to do, all of us, is just to get it out there, right? Because if you look in a textbook about DIRCMs, you'll see pictures of the people with really big tumors all up and down. And certainly that is a type of DIRCMs. And certainly I know people with those types of DIRCMs. When I go in there, even if somebody does know a little bit about DIRCMs, I have nothing to see. I'm diffuse. So, the first doctor that didn't treat me like I was crazy actually just looked at my arms. He's like, you don't have DIRCMs. I mean, they're nodular. And so to change that kind of vision, it also helps to get more people with different types out there, to get the men out there, to get the different types of DIRCMs out there so that it's not just what you would find precursory online, which is not the full story of what's actually going on here.
Well, and just to your point, I had a lipedema patient in clinic this week, and her father had lipedema.
Wow.
Yeah. And her father. And it was just a really, we both just paused for a moment and reflected. It was her father. And there are gentlemen also out there with lipedema and,
sure.
The full spectrum. And we want to always, hold space for all the different types, the ones that aren't fitting the Instagram algorithm or the TikTok algorithm, but for all of those that have these rare diseases. Absolutely.
Oh, wow. All right. I've taken up enough of your time, and I believe that we have more to have you do, so I can't tire you all out in one day.
Okay, well, hopefully, if there's anything that you guys need, anything that I can do, just please don't hesitate to reach out.
Oh, don't worry about it. You're stuck with us. Thank you again for agreeing to do this. It was lovely getting to know just a little bit more about you. And thank you again for all of your help. And don't worry, you're stuck with us. You're not getting rid of us.
Good. Oh, well,
Have a great night, Dr. Derrick.
You too. Bye, everyone. Bye. Bye. Bye.